We'll visit New York City and experience one man's spiritual connection with the Statue of Liberty in Keeper of the Flame. And stay with us when Dr. Kelly explains why fad diets are dangerous. And Father Pat Lavin tells us why it's a sure thing when it comes to relaxation. All this and more next on Real to Real.
Hello again, everyone. I'm Paul Perello.
Hello, everybody. I'm Pat Shelton, and welcome to Real.
This summer, we will see many different gatherings, meetings, and conventions taking place across this country. For instance, the Republican and the Democratic National Conventions. But on tonight's program, we'll have a discussion about the 7th Annual Black Catholic Conference.
And tonight we'll have for you Dr. John Kelly with information about fad diets, and Father Pat Lavin with second thoughts on the seashore. But first, there are jobs, and then there are unusual jobs. How would you like to be the man who takes care of the Statue of Liberty? Well, we'll meet him tonight. They call him the Keeper of the Flame.
Ellis Island was the first stop for thousands seeking a new life. But it was the sight of this lady that silently welcomed them to freedom. Many of the travelers had been eking out an existence in their homeland, and with every last bit of money, they bought a one-way ticket for another chance. To those, the lady spoke of opportunity. Other travelers knew only oppression and had barely escaped with their lives. To these, the lady spoke of hope. There were thousands of travelers coming from all parts of the world. Each had a story, and each heard her speak silently to their hearts. The Statue of Liberty stands solidly with the flame held high above her head. Even so, her task is not an easy one. There are many who fight against her. There are those who take her for granted and forget what it took to achieve all that she symbolizes. There are political forces in the world that seek to snuff out the flame and destroy the ideas she represents. Even Mother Nature seems to be against her. Some days clouds cover her, rain showers her, and even lightning strikes her, but she continues to stand. With so much against her, Lady Liberty isn't without friends. One such friend is Charlie DeLeo.
My official title is Maintenance Mechanics Helper, but I'm known throughout America as the Keeper of the Flame, and my duties is to keep the golden flame lit up with 16 lamps that I always monitor and change. I also take care of the original glass and copper torch in the lobby, keep that clean, vacuum that, and I take care of 70,000 cubic feet of Statue of Liberty superstructure, the girders that hold the lady together. Plus I do pruning, plus I'll change garbage cans, I'll mow grass, I'll trim hedges, I do painting. I'm a handyman, I'm a jack of all trades, you might say. I got this job, I was out of work and I took the Circle Line ferry and I chanced to ask for a job. I didn't know it was the Holy Spirit at that time, and they hired me. To me, the Statue of Liberty stands for all the hopes and aspirations that men and women have been fighting and struggling for 6,000 years. You know, freedom, having the right to worship God in any way they want to worship God and not being told by the state or anybody else, you know, how to worship God. Freedom to speak against the policies of your country when you think these policies are not right, that they go against your own beliefs. But that's what Lady Liberty stands for to me, is freedom of religion and freedom of expression.
Charlie not only feels that he is helping his country, but also his God.
Working at the Statue of Liberty, I feel deeply it's God's calling me to the Statue of Liberty to give him glory, to represent him and Jesus Christ in my life. And I believe it's a sacred calling, and I do my best to be faithful to this calling.
Charlie has been featured on several television shows and recently appeared on the cover of Parade magazine. But with that notoriety, Charlie always tries to give God the glory and looks for opportunities to share his faith, even to those he works with.
He is open, warm, and just full of the Lord. Just full of the Lord. That's whenever I talk with him, we're usually always talking about the Lord, and it's just a great thing, because you can really feel the love just pouring out of him for not just me, but for all people.
Charlie DeLeo takes his faith seriously as well as his job, even when others think he's crazy.
I don't think my work is dangerous, but my coworkers think I'm nuts. But when there's berry droppings on the gold leaf of the new golden flame, I'm the one who climbs on top of that golden flame and I wash it down. I also work on the superstructure, the hundreds of girders that hold liberty together, and I go out there with a safety belt and a sneakers and a helmet, and I clean the superstructure. I don't think it's dangerous, but it has its ups and downs, I guess. The worst thing about my job, I guess, is, you know, knowing that someday I won't be able to do this. And I love my job, and I'll probably miss it.
For Charlie, taking care of Lady Liberty is more than just a job. He has sensed her spirit and heard her speak to his heart. The Keeper of the Flame has written a poem to express her words.
My flame, though changed from glass to gold, now blazes out with brighter hope. To all that are on freedom's side, my golden flame burns deep inside. For freedom cost an awful price, for many paid with their dear lives to keep alive the spark that lights the sacred flame of freedom's light. My flame is fueled by cries and moans, by blood and tears and hearts that glow, by all who dare to hope and dream and fight to keep me standing free. They speak to me of woe and grief, of bonds and chains and agony. O liberty, sweet liberty, I'll always stand on guard for thee. Great God has placed me where I am and fashioned me with wondrous care. He always hears my silent prayers. I have a soul, I care, I care.
Well, there you have it. You always wondered who went and changed the light bulbs at the Statue of Liberty. There's the Keeper of the Flame. Up next on Reel to Reel, we have our checkup segment. And did you know that at one time or another, most of us have been on a diet? But so-called fad diets, according to Dr. John Kelly, can do more harm than good. Here's Dr. Kelly with Checkup.
Remember a while back when Oprah Winfrey announced she lost 67 pounds in a few months on a liquid diet as she modeled her size 10 jeans? This revelation generated great interest among those of us who carry around some extra poundage, and in America that's a great number of people. It's been estimated that at least 20% of adults in the United States are overweight to the extent that their health and longevity are threatened. Associated with increased body fat is an increased risk of heart disease, hypertension, diabetes, arthritis, gout, and kidney or lung disease. Currently, very low-calorie diets are indeed safer than the liquid protein diets of the 70s, but they're not without their risks. Very low-calorie diets like OptiFast provide 400 to 800 calories a day and usually come in powdered form. They contain protein from a milk or egg source and are usually mixed with water, so that they can be consumed 3 to 5 times a day. These diets are supplemented with vitamins and minerals, including potassium, and is recommended that at least 2 additional liters of fluid be ingested daily. These type of diets should only be administered to patients by experienced physicians, and only patients who are at least 30% overweight and have passed a recent comprehensive medical exam will find these diets safe. If these diets are not carefully medically supervised and are used by only mildly obese individuals, serious complications such as dehydration, dizziness, or heart problems could result. On these diets, mildly obese individuals lose more lean body mass than severely obese, and this appears to be potentially dangerous to the heart. Now for the bad news. Most patients on a very low-calorie diet alone regain the weight they lose. Quick weight loss is 3 times more likely to return than those pounds which are lost slowly and gradually. In addition, repeated weight loss and weight gain, so-called yo-yo dieting, is probably more harmful to your heart than not losing any weight at all. So what's the answer? Well, Don't settle for a short-term diet. Adopt an eating plan for life. A long-term program is the only real effective way to lose weight and keep it off. If you're really serious about losing weight, stick to a diet that is at least 1,200 calories a day, an amount considered safe by the experts. Include foods that are acceptable and appealing to you. Keep total fat intake to less than 30% of calories. Engage in an endurance exercise program 3 days a week for at least 20 minutes. Recruit the help of a support person. Adopt good eating habits and keep them for life. It would be unwise and even dangerous to engage in any diet that is less than 1,200 calories, suggests mega doses of vitamins as a substitute for food, guarantees you lose a certain number of pounds, omits one food group or major nutrient, uses fancy theories to explain how certain food combinations lead to weight loss. And now, if you excuse me, it's time for lunch. Let's see what my wife has for me today. Carrot sticks, celery, sprouts, marinated tofu. How exciting. For checkup, I'm Dr. John Kelly.
Exciting, really. But I'm going to promise publicly right now that I'm going to lose 20 pounds by next fall, the healthy way, Dr. Kelly. And now, stay tuned for Paul Perella with our studio guest, Linda Love, right after these helpful messages.
Three years ago, I made a film in a severely depressed section of Trenton on behalf of Martin House. I pleaded for volunteers and support to assist poor families in need of help with nowhere else to turn. This morning I went back and I saw a changing community, from neglect and desperation to vitality and renewed hope. Yes, we're making progress thanks to Martin House and you, but please don't stop now. Call Martin House at area code 609-989-8143 and see how you can continue to help. Thank you.
When I'm in court, I need to know the facts. And if you have arthritis, you need to know the facts too. The Eastern Pennsylvania chapter of the Arthritis Foundation offers free literature and self-help programs to make arthritis easier to live with. Arthritis is serious. It strikes 1 out of every 7 people. It's not just minor aches and pains, and it is not just for old people. How do I know? I'm one of those little old ladies with arthritis.
Some week.
Thank God it's Friday.
Isn't it time you thank God for the rest of the week? There's power in prayer. A message from your Catholic neighbors.
The act of praying is also meant to open us up to God and our neighbor, not only in words, but also in action.
Welcome back to Real. As I mentioned at the outset of the program, there will be a number of meetings, gatherings, and conventions this summer that will be fraternal, social, or political in nature that, needless to say, will chart the course for these organizations over the next few years and perhaps into the 21st century. Perhaps one of the most important meetings for African American Catholics will be the 7th National Black Catholic Congress this July 9th through the 12th in New Orleans. Here to discuss the upcoming Congress is Mrs. Linda Love, Director of the Office for Black Catholics in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia. Linda, welcome.
Thank you, Paul.
Now, I mentioned at the outset of the program by mistake, I said it was an annual conference. Actually, it's a conference that takes place now every 5 years, correct?
That's right.
Much of the 7th National Black Catholic Congress will focus this year on the concept of the family. Is that the case?
That's correct. The theme for Congress 7 is the African American family.
And why the need this time to focus on the family, Linda?
Well, certainly not just in the African American community, but throughout the country. There is a real attack on family values and principles. And following the Congress 6, the 1987 Congress, faith communities throughout the country gathered together to assess the needs of the African American Roman Catholic communities. And it was decided as a result of those meetings that the needs of the African American family should be addressed at Congress 7.
Okay. Now, the Congress has been around since 1889, yes. The concept of the Congress. And in 1987, we saw the schedule of the meetings move to every 5 years, correct?
That's correct.
How are delegates selected to attend the Congress?
Well, last October to be exact, over 250 African American Roman Catholics gathered in Philadelphia for a day of reflection. And at that time, 75 nominees were named at that meeting. And following a lengthy process involving a selection process, certain characteristics were identified for the delegates to Congress 7. And 20 delegates were selected from the Archdiocese to represent the Archdiocese at Congress 7, as well as 10 observers.
Mm-hmm. Now, these observers are allowed to come to the Congress, but they're not allowed to participate as official delegates? Is that the case?
That's correct. The real difference between the delegates and the observers are the delegates will have the opportunity to vote on the Congress floor for the various agenda items for the Congress. The observers, however, are a very important position because along with the delegates, the observers, 10 observers from the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, will have the responsibility for making sure that the agenda items from Congress 7 are implemented.
So how many people is the national organization looking to attract in New Orleans in July?
It's expected that there will be over 3,000
wow.
people representing Roman Catholics across the country.
Linda, as the director of the office in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, what do you say to people that may come back and say, well, a Catholic is a Catholic is a Catholic, and why, A, does the Archdiocese have to have a special office set aside for black Catholics, and why do we need a Congress, a meeting like this every 5 years to address the needs of black Catholics, not only in the Archdiocese, but across the United States?
Well, I think it's really scriptural, Paul, that while there is one body, there are many parts to that one body. And certainly African American Roman Catholics have unique gifts and talents to contribute to the larger church. And as a result of many years of oppression and persecution, African Americans have really unique strengths to contribute to the overall body of Christ.
And we should also mention here that black Catholics have made tremendous contributions to the Archdiocese of Philadelphia as well as to the Catholic Church across the United States. Where can people go perhaps and learn more about those contributions to the Archdiocese as well as the Catholic Church in the USA?
Well, certainly our office is a resource for people to contact, as well as there are numerous books on African American Roman Catholics. There's a great book by Father Cyprian Davis called History of Black Catholics in the United States. It's an excellent resource.
Being a black Catholic, needless to say, sometimes you have to feel a little alienated that the church may not be addressing the needs as much as you really want them to address them. Where are some of the areas that you perceive the church can improve when it comes to black Catholics?
Well, there's always the need for awareness that racism is real and it's alive, and unfortunately we've had a lot of examples of that lately. And so just the dialogue that racism does in fact exist, and for us to really focus on solutions to make sure that as a church we do address those problems.
Now, prior to the Congress convening on July 9th, there will be a special service in Philadelphia for the delegates attending the Congress, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, Paul, we're really excited about that because our Cardinal Bevilacqua will be presiding at that commissioning prayer service for the delegates and the observers to Congress 7. And everything that we've done in connection with the Congress has been in prayerful reflection. And that will just be another affirmation of the responsibility of the delegates and the observers, as well as the entire faith community here in Philadelphia.
Now, when the Congress concludes, what do you hope to come away with back on July 12th, when everybody goes back to their respective dioceses? What do you hope to come away with?
Well, really, that's where we figure the real job begins. Through all the discussions, the workshops, the prayer, the praise at the Congress, we hope to be able to come back with definite programs that will help to strengthen the African American family.
Linda, thank you so much for being with us on this edition of Real to Real. Linda Love, Director of the Office for Black Catholics in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia. Much more ahead on this edition of Real to Real, including a trip down to the Jersey Shore. Please stay with us.
Set materials for Real to Real provided by Tague Lumber Incorporated, serving the Delaware Valley for over 75 years. And by John Wanamaker, fine stores in the Delaware Valley. We welcome your comments, suggestions, and donations and encourage you to write us at Real to Real, St. Charles Seminary, 1000 East Wynwood Road, Overbrook, PA 19096, or call us during regular business hours at 668-9842.
Time now for one of our favorite priests, Father Pat Lavin, here to tell us that there's more to Atlantic City than ocean and casinos. Here he is with second thoughts about a sure thing.
Hi, I'm Father Pat Lavin, and I have a few second thoughts about working as a priest, about leisure, about the office, about life in general. I'm beginning to be firmly convinced that it's a sure thing that every now and then, after 21 years in the active ministry, I have to escape. I live in the same house and work in the same place. In many ways, it's like working for a grocery store, running your own grocery store in the neighborhood. I remember of Lee and Joe Ozer. They used to run the place around the corner from me. Lee and Joe would work from sunrise to sunset, constantly on their feet. When they finally closed the store, they would go upstairs, kick off their shoes, and a person like me would be there ringing the doorbell saying, "Oh, Joe, I'm sorry. We just ran out of milk. Could you give us a quart? Oh, and by the way, put it on the eye." You gotta get away from it. You have to get away from the sounds of the street. You have to get away from the doorbells. You have to get away from the phones. I do it in my own way. Why don't you come and see how we do it? Yes, every now and then you have to escape and get away from it all for a little peace and quiet. Some of my brother priests go to Malvern. Others go to Pius X Retreat House in Blackwood. Me, I come to glitzy Atlantic City for my peace and my quiet and a place that has a lot of old world charm. Here at the Irish Pub and Inn, you'll find a lovely lobby that's filled with antique lamps, lovely furniture, and maybe a little bit of what my mother used to call early American Irish. That was called a mix and match. Mom and my Aunt Rose came here for their last vacation, and they enjoyed it very much. They came for 7 days and ended up staying for 2 weeks. As we packed up my brother's station wagon with all of their newfound treasures, filling it with stuff that they bought in the Five and Dime and in Irene's and from the gypsies on the boardwalk. Matter of fact, I baptized most of the gypsy children when I lived here in Atlantic City. So they got into the car. My mother says, "I enjoyed myself so much, I'm coming back for a month next year. I'm going to save my money, and I'm coming." And I said, "Ma, what month?" She said, "August." And I said, "Oh, it's a shame. I'm going to be out of town that month." And she looked at me and gave me that look that only a mother can give, and she says, "Keep it up and don't get smarter, I'll smack you right across the face." And then she laughed away all the way down St. James Place on the way home to Philadelphia. Yes, this is a lovely place for people to come. I enjoy it very much. It's a place where you find hospitality first and foremost, a family atmosphere of the clientele and the staff. It's a place where they serve fine meals downstairs. And if you want a Guinness, all you have to do is climb on an elevator and go down one flight, and there you are, surrounded by lovely people. People who really know what it's like to keep people smiling. First, you have Kathy, who's the proprietor. Constantly, the ladies moving around, left, right, sweeping floors, waiting on tables and smiling at people and saying, "Welcome to the Irish Pub." You find people like Loretta, who's the innkeeper. Loretta can make a bed before you even get out of it. And her daughter, Mo, works downstairs as a waitress. And she could serve up an Irish stew before you're comfortable in your chair. And behind the bar, you'll find her brother Sparky. Sparky's real name is Mark, but nobody knows what it is. He's the type of man that can walk around the bar, and matter of fact, I think that's where he got the name Sparky. He goes around so quickly, waiting on people and smiling, that he almost throws sparks from the bottom of his feet. Oh, it is a nice place. You want a little peace and quiet? All you have to do is to go out and sit on the porch with a good book and rock your way into your heart's content. You want a lovely room? A room without a telephone, and that's the part I like the best. You have it here. And if you want to watch the news after dinner, you come upstairs to the one television set that's in the lobby, and all of the customers share around the world's news. Yes, it is a lovely place to escape to. Just a short walk across the boards, down onto the beach, where you feel the rush of water across your feet as you make footprints in the sand. There are a lot of things that I remember about this lovely town and the quietness that we have. I remember the last time my mother came down here, as I said before, and she came to visit our church. And they were taking up the collection, and I said to the usher, I said, John, make sure you get the blonde sitting next to the nun to put something in the basket. And as she got closer to her, I said, oh, and John, tell me what she's putting into it. And the next thing I know, she's waving $2 in the air, and she's saying from halfway down the church, it's your inheritance. Oh, God, yes. This is a place of peace and quiet, of laughter, of family, of friends. Try it. You may like it. This is Father Pat Lavin with a few second thoughts. See you again. Shalom, shalom aleichem.
Down the shore with Father Pat. It's always a treat to be with him, Paul.
Indeed it is. And it was a treat to meet Linda Love from the Office for Black Catholics in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, and of course the Congress coming up in July. And Pat, you'll be going to the Congress, correct?
Yes, we'll be going. I'll be a delegate, and I expect it'll be one of the most important things I've ever done.
Now, the sending off service that we mentioned during the interview, that takes place?
That takes place Tuesday, June 30th, 7:30 p.m. in the Cathedral Basilica. And we're expecting van loads of people to please come on down. It's going to be a spirit-filled service, and everyone is welcome.
We also like to mention that we have two new additions to the Reel to Reel family, Anne Marie and Mary Elizabeth, born on May 30th. They are the daughters of Dr. John Kelly. And Dr. Kelly's just a little bit uptight, but Doctor, just to give you some advice, my hair was black before I had my daughters. Now it's gray, so look what you have to look forward to.
Okay, we are going to close down for the season now. We'll be going into summer reruns. But in the fall, we'll be back with a brand new format. The show will have a brand new title, and we'll have brand new figures, Paul.
You can bet on that.
And we hope that you will watch for the promos and read your diocesan newspapers for the advertisements of the new show. And come back with us in the fall.
Until the next time, in the fall, I'm Paul Perello.
And I'm Pat Shelton. We'll see you.
Good night.
Good night for now.